little bit more thinking on the Brennan Armstrong transfer portal news that's going to change Virginia football near future. I'm Chris Graham, and we reported yesterday on how Brennan Armstrong, the QB1, is heading to the transfer portal and will likely not be returning to Virginia for his final year of eligibility in 2023. Not a surprise. I think we talked about this yesterday. Not a surprise at all to hear this. Indications had been that this was the case dating back a few weeks at least. What's interesting here is just what the impact's going to be outside of just Armstrong himself, and kind of what we've learned as a result of his decision to seek other opportunities, I guess you could say. The first, I think Armstrong could be the first domino to fall, and that's the. For UVA football fans, the sort of scary news from just a football standpoint. I know we're still all processing the horrible news, and the November 13th. We love you, Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr. And every first that comes up the next few months is going to be a time to remember these guys, right? I mean, among other times, but the first practice in the spring, the first football game next September against Tennessee, first game in Scott Stadium. I'm not sure. I think that's JMU maybe the next week, but I haven't. I don't think the schedule's fully done there. But I think it's JMU. The first, every first is it's going to be tough. And for their families, I mean, life is forever changed. For their teammates, life's forever changed. So you just got to acknowledge that pretty much every time you talk about Virginia football right now, probably for a while. Okay, so that said, the football part of things, Armstrong is heading out. What do we kind of get what this means? I think the first thing it tells us is that he either thinks or knows that Coach Tony Elliott is going to retain Des Kitchings, the offensive coordinator. And as much as I thought that Brennan Armstrong was on his way out after this year, I thought it was just as certain that Des Kitchings wouldn't be coming back. Virginia's offense floundered under Kitchings in 2022. We could tell the story with numbers. Brennan Armstrong last year, and Tony Elliott doesn't like talking about last year, but that's okay. I'm not Tony Elliott. Last year, Brennan Armstrong passed for 4,449 yards, 31 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He had a 156.4 passer rating. This year, not so much. 2,220 yards, less than half. Now there was one less game. He played 11 games last year, 10 games this year. 7 touchdowns, 12 INTs, a 109.4 rating. His completion percentage went from 65.2 to 54.7. This is the scheme. Let's just say it. It's the scheme, and it's not adjusting to this. Kitchings was hired last January to be the offensive coordinator. He had 15 spring practices with this group. Every college football team has 15 spring practices. He had 15 practices. He had to have seen something then. Hey, this isn't catching on like I thought it was. Then he has the whole month of August, the last week of July for a whole month of August. At some point, he could have seen that it ain't working. And maybe if not, gone back to the old offense, because he didn't coach the old offense. He could have at least got he had Brennan Armstrong there who played in the old offense for 4 years. Hey, let's figure. And Marcus Hagans, who coached in it for 4 years, a wide receivers coach in Virginia, who was retained from the Bronco Mendenhall staff. He also had Garrett Touge, the offensive line coach, who coached in that offense for all those years. He could have said, hey, can we work some elements of what worked for you guys last year into this year's offense? No, I mean, what they did instead, Kitchings and Elliott said, let's keep running the same crappy offense that isn't working, and it'll get better. And it didn't get better. I mean, this is coaching incompetence, right? It's malpractice. So, not only were his numbers affected, obviously the receivers' numbers were affected. Dontavion Wicks was a first-team All-ACC guy last year. He had 57 catches, 1,203 yards last year. He had 30 catches, 430 yards this year. He had 9 drops on 72 targets this year, 5 on 93 last year. All of a sudden, a guy, had great hands, couldn't catch the ball. Keaton Thompson somehow was still third-team All-ACC this year. Last year, catch 78 catches, 990 yards. This year, 53 catches, 579 yards. Also had some dropsies issues. 9 on 77 this year after 7 on 112 last year. So two guys who are going to they're going to play in the NFL eventually. Wicks will transfer out too. Keaton's used up his eligibility. I think he should have gone last year to the NFL, but obviously he decided to come back for a 6th year in college. He's going to play in the NFL. He's too athletically good. He's made the transition to wide receiver to me great. He's a guy who's going to play on Sundays. But we made him look like schlubs this year. So Wicks is next. I think that's what we've learned. I mean, there's no way Wicks is going to come back. He's a guy that he unlike Thompson's got to make himself available for the draft. And if he's not drafted, make himself an undrafted free agent and try to sign with the team after the draft next April. Wicks has a year of eligibility left, and he can like Armstrong, he can repair his reputation. And he's not going to hang around to find out who Virginia gets off the transfer portal to be the quarterback. He's gonna find a place, and the places that are going to want Armstrong and Wicks are not going to be recruiting the 2022 guys. They're going to not even look at that game tape. They're going to look at the 2021 guys. For all the people who've been commenting on our website and our social media about my writing on this the last couple of days and talking about this last couple of days, who say this is all the players, the coaches are great. And I've seen implication. Well, they played in an offense that isn't NFL ready. The NI offense doesn't get guys ready for the NFL. Kurt Binkert, Bryce Perkins. How about those two names for you? Two guys that they picked up off the transfer portal, turned into NFL quarterbacks. They got jobs. They play. Bryce Perkins started last week. That system does produce NFL players at quarterback. It produces other guys too. Alameda Zacchaeus is one guy that comes off the top of my head. Wide receiver for the Falcons, has been there for a few years. It does produce NFL. It does produce NFL players. The system isn't just a junk college system. These guys are going to find a place to go next year. They're going to repair their reputations, and it's just going to make the decision that I think's been made to bring Des Kitchings back look even worse. Other things we learned from the news that Armstrong is out. We're going to need to hit the portal for QBs. I still wonder about Jay Woolfolk as far as his plans for next year. I've not heard anything. This is me totally speculating, but it's hard to imagine. He was recruited by Robert Anae. So he's a guy who Anae and Jason Beck, Anae is a quarterbacks coach who followed him to Syracuse. Those guys have their system. They thought that Jay Woolfolk was a fit for their system. And the kind of quarterbacks who seem like they would fit in them, when you think about Tony Elliott and what he did at Clemson. I mean, Trevor Lawrence. Virginia's not going to get a Trevor Lawrence, but taller guys, back, stand in the pocket guys who can, look around, find receivers, the timing offense kind of things. And so, not the running quarterbacks. So Woolfolk has another option. He's a great baseball player. He's going to be he was the setup man for the baseball team as a freshman this past spring. He either graduates to the role of closer, or maybe he competes for a weekend starting rotation job. I don't know, but he's got the kind of stuff that MLB scouts are going to want. MLB front offices are going to want. He's a 2nd or 3rd round pick in the draft. He very well could just say, I'm done with football and I'm going to move on to baseball. If not, he's got a question to answer. He's got a decision to make next year. He's got to either give up baseball for a month in the middle of the baseball season, from roughly mid-March to mid-April, so he can be in training camp, spring practice for 29 days, 15 practices, or he doesn't participate in spring practice and he plays baseball and he does what he did last year, which is, gets tutored in the offense by Des Kitchings, but doesn't get the reps that he needs, or he somehow has more hours in a day than the rest of us because he can be a full participant in spring practice. He can be a full participant in baseball. He can also be a college student and also get some sleep every once in a while. I don't know that I see it happen. And, if baseball was like a distant second for him, I could see, hey, you get a chance to be the quarterback. I don't know. I don't know that I see that. Even if he's your quarterback, you've got to find at least one quarterback off the portal, because honestly, behind Woolfolk, there's not talent there. The guys who were part of the program this year, no offense to them, but they were also NI recruits, and I've not heard anything to this effect. But if they hang around, it's to be students, not to be quarterbacks in the Power Five. So transfer portal, who do you get? Notre Dame's quarterback just put his name in the transfer portal. Don't expect that. Don't expect that level of guy. Expect a group of five guy, a MAC guy, a Sun Belt Conference guy, a Conference USA guy, maybe an FCS guy, who started and put up decent numbers and thinks, hey, I got a chance to play in Power Five. Maybe that'll advance me. Or maybe a Power Five guy who lost his starting job or lost the competition for a starting job and says, hey, I fit the system well. I should go there. They need a quarterback. I'm a guy. And so that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get the top of the heap. You're going to get more like the Binkerts and Perkins. And obviously, Anai and Mendenhall and Jason Beck did well with those guys. Binkert was a starter at ECU for a couple of years, got hurt. His coach got fired. And so he was on the lookout for a new gig, and he got it, and it turned it into a good situation for him. Bryce Perkins broke his neck in Arizona. He played JUCO ball. Virginia thought he was a fit. He was a fit. He led us to an Orange Bowl. You can have it happened twice. We got lucky twice with those situations. The Mike London era, we didn't do so well with those kind of transfer plug-in quarterback situations, and so you can hit or you can miss. Look down at Virginia Tech. They pushed Joseph Fuente, the previous coach, pushed Hendon Hooker out. Tennessee picked him up, turned him into a Heisman Trophy candidate, and he was replaced by a couple of guys at Virginia Tech who are replacement level players, to use baseball terminology, baseball war terminology. So, but that's what Virginia is going to get. Maybe it all works out, like I said, and maybe it doesn't. I'll say this for Brennan Armstrong. He's the only name we can confirm is in the transfer portal as of this recording on Friday at almost 5:00. I hope he does. I hope he finds a great situation. I hope he gets a starting job. I hope he does repair his reputation. I hope that wherever he goes to next year, he puts up big numbers and gets a shot at the NFL, because that's what he deserves. He's a UVA alum, like I am. I had a back and forth with one fan who said he didn't accept coaching. He didn't buy into the system. The coaching, blah, blah, blah. Coaches are great. The players suck. I'm always going to come down on the side of the kids. And if that's a problem, I think it's a great problem to have. I'm always going to come down on the side of the people who don't make money, and put the responsibility on the side of those who do. Tony Elliott's making $4+ million a year. I don't know the exact salary for Des Kitchings. It's in the range of $400,000 to $600,000 a year. That's what they pay guys. That's the going rate for offensive coordinators in the ACC and the bottom rung of the ACC anyway. And for anybody who thinks he didn't go all out this year, think of that play in the North Carolina game, down 31-21. What was it, about 3.5 minutes to go? It's first and goal at the 8. He scrambles around in the pocket because he has to, because that's what the leaky offensive line did for him this year. And he ran full speed into the end zone through a couple of Carolina guys. I mean, I'm watching the play live. My first thought is, you're risking your career here to get a touchdown in this game. And we're still losing. We end up losing the game because Tony Elliott doesn't know how to use timeouts and decides to onside kick with 3.5 minutes to go, which, we wrote a lot about that. And, Armstrong put himself out for this team. And so those who, want to paint a picture that he didn't, basically just move on. If you don't want to hear the truth, you don't have to hear the truth. That's fine. So, let's hope it all works out for Virginia. There is concern that, that this could be just the first of many guys leaving, especially many guys with opportunity to be impact players. Let's hope that, that enough guys hang around, and that the coaching staff can, fix what they need to by, plugging some guys in from the transfer portal, and put a decent product out there next year. I don't have a lot of confidence right now in that, but let's hope. That's what we can do as fans, is hope. And we'll no matter what, we'll be rooting for the guys in orange and blue next year, no doubt. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, any just random thoughts, Chris@AugustaFreePress.com. And for the latest on UVA athletics, other sports, and other news, go to AugustaFreePress.com.